Good morning, I'm Atlee. I'm a junior here at Arlington Heights Christian School, and today I will be talking about euthanasia and how it should remain illegal because it violates medical ethics and devalues human life. Imagine a doctor walking into a hospital room, and instead of bringing medicine to heal, the doctor brings in a prescription designed to end the patient's life. For centuries, physicians have pledged to preserve and protect life. Yet today, some medical systems allow doctors to help intentionally end a person's life. This practice is called euthanasia, or physician-assisted suicide. So the question is not only, does euthanasia reduce suffering, but more importantly, is it morally right? So what is euthanasia? Well, according to the American Medical Association, euthanasia is the administration of a lethal agent by another person to a patient for the purpose of relieving the patient's intolerable and incurable suffering. In other words, euthanasia is the intentionally ending of a person's life in order to stop their pain. In the United States, forms of physician-assisted death have been legalized in multiple states, and similar laws continue to be debated. Because of this, euthanasia remains one of the most controversial ethical issues within modern medicine. In just a second, we will hear about a widely known case, that of Brittany Maynard, who was a 29-year-old woman that was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. And after being told she would only have a couple months left to live, and would likely experience severe decline, she moved to the state of Oregon where physician-assisted death was legal. In 2014, she chose to end her life, and her story sparked a national debate.
I don't want to die. If anyone wants to hand me like a magical cure and save my life so that I can have children with my husband, I will take them up on it.
She's 29 years old, recently married, and was hoping to start a family. Now, Brittany Maynard is planning her death, choosing to end her life before cancer can destroy her.
I think until anyone has walked a mile in my shoes and knows what they're facing and has felt the just bone-splitting headaches that I get sometimes, or the seizures, or the inability to speak, or the moments where I'm looking at my husband's face and I can't think of his name.
Some viewed her decision as an act of personal control and dignity, while many others saw it as a troubling sign that society may begin to view death as a solution, rather than caring for people through their suffering. There are several reasons why someone might consider euthanasia. There is intense physical pain from serious illness that can feel unbearable. Many fear losing their independence and dignity, especially when they can no longer care for themselves. And others experience emotional suffering, including fear, anxiety, and depression. These concerns are very real and deserve compassion. However, suffering calls for care, love, and support, not the intentional ending of a life. It is also important to recognize that many requests for euthanasia are not actually about pain alone. Studies have shown that people often request it because they feel like a burden to their families, or because they feel isolated and alone. A survey that was published by Ulster Medical Society stated that in 2021, in Oregon, 54% of people chose euthanasia because they felt like a burden to their families. This raises an important concern. If society begins to normalize euthanasia, will vulnerable people begin to feel the pressure, spoken or unspoken, to choose death? When someone feels like their life is no longer worth living, the solution shouldn't be to confirm that fear, but rather to surround them with reassurance, dignity, and love. Euthanasia also challenges the foundation of medical ethics. One important ethical document is the Declaration of Geneva, one of the earliest policies in the World Medical Association, which was adopted in 1948. It builds upon the Hippocratic Oath and is often called the modern Hippocratic Oath. One of its key statements says, "I will maintain the utmost respect for human life, from the time of conception, and even under threat, I will not use my medical knowledge contrary to the laws of humanity." Traditionally, medicine is guided by principles such as autonomy, beneficence, non-malfeasance, and justice. And while euthanasia may appear to support a patient's autonomy, it directly conflicts with non-malfeasance, because intentionally causing death is considered the ultimate harm. This creates a serious tension between euthanasia and the core mission in medicine, which is to heal, care for, and preserve life. There's also a concern known as the slippery slope. In some places where euthanasia has been legalized, the criteria has gradually expanded over time, from terminal illness to chronic illness, and in even some cases, psychological suffering. According to a study that was done at Dordt University in Canada, the number of euthanized deaths has been growing every year and shows little signs of slowing down. As seen in the chart, between 2016 and 2023, over 60,000 Canadians have been euthanized, with over 15,000 being done in 2023 alone. The percentage of deaths due to euthanasia is around 5%, and euthanasia in Canada is now one of the 5th most common causes of death. This raises an important ethical question. Once society accepts the idea that some lives are no longer worth living, where does that line get drawn, and who gets to decide? The Bible teaches that human life has inherent value because it is created in the image of God. Genesis 1:27 explains that humanity reflects its creator, meaning that every life has worth regardless of their health, ability, or independence. Even those who are sick or are near death still possess dignity and value. Scripture also emphasizes that God alone has authority over life and death. Job 14:5 teaches that a person's days are determined by God, and Deuteronomy 32:39 declares that he both gives life and takes it away. From this perspective, euthanasia places human control in an area that the Bible teaches belongs to God. In addition, Exodus 20:13 commands, "You shall not murder," reinforcing the importance of protecting innocent human life. Many Christians believe that euthanasia violates this command because it involves intentionally ending a person's life. At the same time, the Bible calls believers to respond to suffering with compassion. Galatians 6:2 instructs us to carry one another's burdens. Rather than ending life to eliminate suffering, Scripture encourages people to walk alongside those who are hurting, offering our love, comfort, and care. Throughout the Gospels, Jesus himself consistently cared for the sick, comforted the hurting, and valued those whom society often overlooked. And his example reminds us as believers that every life matters, especially in moments of weakness and pain. There are compassionate alternatives that address suffering without ending life. Palliative care focuses on relieving a patient's pain and improving the quality of life. In extreme cases, palliative sedation may be used to ease severe pain without intending to cause death. These approaches demonstrate that it is possible to care for people with dignity while still respecting the value of human life. Hospice care is another important option. It provides support not only for the patients, but also for the families, helping them to navigate the end-of-life process with dignity, comfort, and emotional support. These forms of care reflect a commitment to life even in its final stages. Imagine a world where people facing illness feel like their lives are no longer worth living. Now imagine a world where those same individuals are surrounded with compassion, dignity, and love until their final moments. A biblical worldview points us to that second vision. Human life is sacred because it is created in the image of God, and life and death ultimately belong to him. Rather than ending life in response to suffering, we are called to respond with love, care, and faithful support. Euthanasia may promise relief, but it undermines the value of human life. So what can we do first? First, we can choose to value life in our own attitudes and conversations, recognizing the dignity of every person, especially those who are suffering. Second, we can support and advocate for compassionate care, such as palliative and hospice services. Third, we can be present for those who are hurting, offering our encouragement, listening, and love when they need it the most. And finally, we can stand firm in our beliefs, speaking truth with compassion in a culture that is still deciding on how to respond to suffering. So what is true compassion? True compassion does not end life. It walks with people through suffering, honoring the one and only life that God has given us.